Hey everyone. So today I want to talk to you about two of the most important pathways to understand when it comes to healthy aging and longevity. And these two pathways are the AMPK and mTOR pathways. Now, why are these so important? Well, both of these pathways play critical roles in cell metabolism. And this in turn is super important because metabolism determines how energy is produced in our cells, and our cells need energy to carry out all of the different functions they have to do, whether it's dividing, building up membranes, building new proteins, or cleaning up after themselves, a process known as autophagy. And so when we look at many chronic diseases, whether it's Alzheimer's, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, in almost all of them, there is a disturbance to metabolism. And so the balance between these two pathways turns out to be super important when it comes to ensuring healthy metabolism and in turn, ensuring good health. So let's talk a little bit about each of these pathways. So think of both AMPK and mTOR as being energy sensing pathways. So AMPK is a pathway that is activated when your body is in a low energy state. So what are those states? Exercise could be one. When you're exercising, you're depleting your energy stores in your muscle. Your liver is creating glucose to help you fuel whatever you're doing. And as you're breaking down products to produce energy, your body creates different molecules that trigger this AMPK pathway. So when your body senses this low energy state, it then activates a whole host of other things that are super important for your overall health. The first thing that happens with AMPK is that it will turn off the synthesis of glycogen, which is a storage form of glucose, and it will turn on the breakdown of glycogen. So you're stopping making more reserves of glucose, and you're breaking down what you have. So it also will put a brake on lipid biosynthesis, which is something that is going to help build up cell membranes. It's also something that will contribute to cholesterol levels. And what it is turning on is a process known as autophagy. Autophagy is a cellular cleanup process that it basically enables cells to remove defective cell components like organelles in order for them to function at their best. So if you think about it, this all kind of logically makes sense. When you're in a state where you are trying to operate in low energy, when you're trying to push in this setting, when your body's trying to push in this setting, you want to remove any waste, which is what autophagy is doing. And you're also focusing on liberating fuel and making sure that you're focused on burning fuel in the most efficient way possible, which is why a third thing that happens is that a process known as beta oxidation, fatty acid oxidation, is also upregulated. So you may know that there are a couple of different ways that your body can produce energy, or ATP, and the most efficient way is actually to burn fat, a process known as fatty acid oxidation. And so AMPK will upregulate that process because, again, we're in a low energy state. We need that efficiency of how we're actually getting access to fuel. So that's AMPK. AMPK is a low energy state pathway. It's activated by exercise. It's activated by fasting. Any sort of nutrient deprivation is gonna activate this pathway. On the flip side, we have the mTOR pathway. So mTOR is all about proliferation, growth, recovery, repair in response to exercise. Now, this pathway gets activated when the cell senses nutrients, like when it senses protein, when it senses carbohydrates. This is often mediated by the action of a molecule called insulin. And so insulin is something that will turn on mTOR. And then mTOR is going to turn on signals to help our bodies or help our cells divide, grow, proliferate. We do fuel storage. So whereas we were breaking down glycogen with AMPK, we're building it up with mTOR. We're doing more lipid biosynthesis. We're building up those membranes. Importantly, what we're also doing is building up mitochondria, which are the cellular powerhouses, right? The things that actually produce the energy. So as you can probably tell, hopefully, it's not as though one of these pathways is better than another. The key is really to have balance. It certainly is the case that having too much mTOR activation can lead to problems with excessive proliferation and inflammation, which are undesirable because we know those things lead to all sorts of chronic diseases. But at the same time, we need some amount of mTOR activation in order to do things like building up mitochondria, which we know is important. It's also important for promoting recovery and repair in response to exercise. So we need some mTOR activation. And on the flip side, we definitely need some AMPK activation as well. We need to have that autophagy happening in order to make sure that our cells are functioning efficiently. We want to make sure we have a good foundation of being able to utilize fatty acids to produce energy. That's really important to setting a strong metabolic foundation. So it's really about balance. Now, I would say in the population of people in 2023, most people have a problem of excess mTOR activation. We live in a society where there is an abundance of nutrients, of nutrition. Nutrition here is used in the broadest term, any sort of food. Like we can access food, at least most of us who are fortunate, can access food pretty much whenever we want. And that has consequences in how our body activates these two pathways. So many of us are in a state where we're activating mTOR a lot, and some might surmise that this is why we have an epidemic of chronic disease. But ultimately, this comes down to balance, and we'll talk hopefully in future videos about molecules that actually can intelligently, and ways I should say, not just molecules, but like there's techniques, there's lifestyle practices, there's supplements, there's nutrition, there's ways to activate these pathways in a way that is balanced. Because ultimately, all of our cells are seeking what's called homeostasis, which is basically a balance between, for example, high energy, low energy. We're always seeking that balance in what our cells are doing. And so ways that can help our cells bring themselves back into homeostasis are going to be some of the most effective interventions. So what are some of those things? Well, I think exercise, for one, is really great. Exercise, yes, it activates AMPK, but it's also known that it can activate mTOR in such a way that we don't get excess activation. We get a balanced activation of both pathways. That's one of the reasons why I'm such a big fan of exercise. I think it's such a potent regulator of key pathways in the body. And, again, given the fact that most of us may be in a state where we're activating mTOR too much, I think fasting is also something that, can benefit a lot of people. We lose the mTOR activation there that could be beneficial for muscle synthesis and mitochondrial biogenesis. But for most of us, again, we're tipped further off on that scale. So I think fasting can be a really useful tool for a lot of people. And so, all of this is to say that, balance is important. Understanding these two pathways is important. And, at the end of the day, what your body needs is going to change over the course of time. And the most important thing for you to be able to understand is to have a framework to understand what's going on inside your body. And that's the point of understanding these pathways. And that's one of the things I'm hoping to accomplish in these videos. So if this seems interesting, please, subscribe to the channel. We'll talk about different pathways, different mechanisms, different molecules, different approaches, lifestyle, supplements, all this stuff. There's so many tools at your disposal today, but the key is you got to have a framework to understand how to navigate it. And that's where understanding mechanisms and pathways is so important. This will help you wade through all of the information that's out there, all of the research that's coming out, all the messaging from influencers and on social media. This having a framework that describes how your body works is so important to helping you navigate all that. So hope this was useful. And if you're interested, please subscribe.